Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kelsey, and today we're going to read some hockey romance. But not just any hockey romance. No, we're going to dive in again into the Game Changer series. If you remember, which I don't see how you couldn't, I had a very big obsession with Heated Rivalry December and January of 2025 to 2026. It took over my entire life. I watched the series many times. I read both Heated Rivalry and The Long Game in that vlog as well. So I will leave it linked up above if you would like to see the OG version of this vlog. But recently I have been feeling very sad about returning to work, and that was the feeling I was having in December and January. It was an impending doom that I was starting work come the mid of January, and Heated Rivalry really helped to bring me joy a little bit in returning to work. Anyways, I've been feeling very emotional about my son turning 18 months, and I know this seems very silly, okay, so then you're just gonna read hockey romances? Yes, okay. Yes, I want to feel happiness. After I finished reading Heated Rivalry and The Long Game, I was like, you know what? I am interested in the other books in the series. I am interested in the entire Game Changers series. So why not read all of them? Therefore, in this vlog, you will see me read Game Changer, Heated Rivalry, Tough Guy, Common Goal, Role Model, and The Long Game, all by Rachel Reed. This is a series of professional hockey players who find love in the professional hockey sphere and what becomes of it. Obviously, it's a global phenomenon due to Heated Rivalry itself, but I wanted to see if the other books in the series can keep up. So I will send you back to Kelsey approximately 2 weeks ago when I started this 6-book read, and we'll come back at the end. Hello. So I am currently in my car because I have to go deliver something to my sister, but we got a package and it is definitely a pre-order because obviously, as you know, I'm on a book buying ban except for 2026 releases. So that's why I know this is just a pre-order. And we're in a car. We're going to try to do this quickly because there's a man at the mechanic shop across the street that's probably wondering what the hell I'm doing. Let's see what this pre-order is. Oh yes. Oh, perfect. This is The Secret World of Briar Rose by Cindy Pham. Cindy Pham is a member here on YouTube, so I obviously had to support, and the book sounds so interesting. So 100 years have passed since the last era of Gildan fell into eternal slumber and doomed the once mighty kingdom to poverty and invasion. At least that's what the fairy tales claim. Corin is a jaded thief who doesn't believe in fables even when she searches Gildan's underground tunnels to find her younger sister Ellie, who ran away to find the sleeping princess in hopes of a better life. Following Ellie's voice, Corin jumps in the portal and seals the entry behind her. I can't get over how beautiful this cover is, how beautiful the design of the book is. You can tell that Cindy is just a booktuber because she knows what's going to get the girlies going, and this is definitely getting me going. I've watched a lot of Cindy's writing videos and stuff like that, so that's what makes me particularly interested for this because the book just sounds so fun. And I know what you're gonna say. Aren't you trying to dwindle down your YA TBR? Yes, mind your business. Oh, and I have nothing to say for Game Changer. I'm only probably within the first 2 chapters. I listened to a little bit of it at work. I know this is not news to people who listen to audiobooks and have listened to the Game Changer series. The audiobook narrator was hard to listen to when it was Heated Rivalry and The Long Game, which is books that I genuinely love. To listen to his voice, what is this accent he's giving Kip? I can't even imagine. How did people genuinely listen to this and be yeah, I want to continue this series? I don't know. Hello, so I'm currently recording another vlog as of right now, but because I'm listening to this book while I'm going on my walks, which I'm about to go on, I did want to update you because I am 1/3 of the way through Game Changer. I don't think I spoke about what this is about, but essentially Game Changer is the story of Scott and Kip. Kip is a smoothie makers and is one day surprised when Scott Hunter, the captain of the New York Admirals, hits on him at the smoothie shop, and the story moves on from there. Obviously, they are the main characters of episode 3 in the Heated Rivalry series and the Game Changers for the rest of the season. I won't get too much into the end of the book, the spoilers of this book, because obviously I know what happens with their story because I watched the show. I am a little bit over 1/3 of the way through now. And the only reason I felt comfortable going overboard when I was walking is because what has happened so far is what has happened in the first like half of episode 3. So Scott and Kip meet, they fall instantly, it seems like, in love, and they are completely obsessed with one another. And now the cracks are starting to form where Kip is feeling like he wants more from Scott, and Scott is struggling with that fact because obviously he loves Kip, or he thinks he loves Kip, or he's infatuated with Kip right now. I don't know if they said I love you yet. He really likes Kip, he wants to stay with Kip, but obviously they can only really have a relationship inside Scott Hunter's home. So it is a physical manifestation, I guess, of the mind prison that Scott is himself in, and then thus puts Kip in. I'm enjoying it obviously because I like these characters, but if you watch my heated rivalry vlog, I don't think Rachel Reed is like the greatest, most eloquent author of all time. But am I eating this up? Yes. Am I struggling a little bit because the audiobook sucks ass? Also, yes. We need to re-record these audiobooks. I'm sorry to the audiobook narrator, but I don't know what artistic direction he was taking, if he was taking any, what artistic direction he chose to do, because the voice he puts on for Kip in this book makes him sound like a caveman, and that is not the Kip that I know. So I'm going to continue listening to this. I'm about to go on another 20-minute walk. And I don't know if I should do third updates, half book updates, because obviously like these are, I don't know, romance books. We know exactly what's happening with them. The formula is really the same. They are hockey players in love. They can't be together. They have to be in the closet because of the just overall conservatism, misogyny that is very rampant in hockey culture. Something I did want to talk about, which I like, I find funny about Rachel Reed's books, is that, and I think like the heated rivalry fandom in general, due to the books and the sort of like role these hockey players take on, but it's that they're like major celebrities. While I think the first gay hockey player would become a major celebrity, and I do think there are hockey players that are more well known, I don't think there is a single hockey player that is like well known in every single household, unlike celebrities, for example. And in here, there Scott actually brings that up, which I think is really smart of Rachel Reed. Like, hockey players are rich, but unless you follow hockey or you're really into hockey, you don't necessarily know them by name. Like, they're not that celebrity wise. And here there's a scene where Scott's talking to one of his other like teammates, and the teammate's like, yeah, I went out with Olivia. We're meant to assume Olivia is a singer. Yeah, I went out with Olivia and the paparazzi was there, and that was crazy. And we would have been in the media for weeks. I don't think that's like inherently true. You did see it with the Hugh brother who is dating Tate McRae, but like more people know Tate McRae's name than like Quinn Hughes or Jack Hughes, whichever one she's dating. I really like hockey, so I know these hockey players by name, but like some of my friends have no idea who these hockey players are when I talk about them, right? So there's this like dissonance. Even like we come from a very, very, very big hockey town of Montreal, which we'll get into for heated rivalry. And I would say like those hockey players are well known by Montrealers, but it's because we're Montrealers and we come from a big hockey town. And even at that, they have to be like incredible to know them by name. And just for like a silly example, but when I went to the hospital to do my 20-week scan for my son, the anatomy scan where you like learn all about like the gender and like if their bones have formed or their brain has formed normally and stuff like that, a big hockey player was also at the public hospital with me waiting to also check his baby in his wife's stomach. So we're both at the MUHC, you know, checking out our babies. So like I said, like they are rich, but the celebrity which Rachel Reed like puts them in this book, I think is really funny. Obviously, she's a big hockey fan, so to her, she would know these players, and to her, they are a big deal, just like I feel the same. But I don't necessarily know if the level of celebrity she puts them in is as accurate as like I think the heated rivalry fandom thinks. I'm gonna go on my walk. I'm going to continue listening to this. I will see how I feel after another third if I feel like I need to talk about something. If not, I'll see you whenever. I don't know. It's a state of mind. I bet it goes like this. Hello. So I am coming to you several days later. In the midst of reading this, I also filmed a manga spend the day with me. So if you want to go watch that, it's a video posted right before this. I ended up deciding that I was just going to update maybe in the middle of books. So you saw me update at about the 44% mark and the end of a book, just because we have 6 books to get through. And like from my Hunger Games vlog where I had 4 hours of footage, I'm not trying to live that life again, okay? Game Changer, I ended up giving a 3 stars. I think this is like the typical sort of rating for this book. I honestly didn't expect to enjoy it though as much because of that, but it was still like just as sweet as the episode I personally found. I really liked Scott and Kip in the series, so that could be also why I enjoyed them in here. I find both Kip and Scott to be really interesting characters because they both sort of know what they want, really. Like, Scott knows he's gay, knows that he's in the closet and like kind of wants to stay that way, but is so brave to still hit on Kip and tell Kip that he likes him. And Kip is brave enough to tell Scott, like, hey, I'm unhappy. I feel like I'm living in a prison in this high rise condo building. And I just want to be with someone who's proud to love me, you know? So that was very interesting to follow because I don't think I've followed or I've read romance books really where the two main characters are like confident in their decisions, especially when it comes to like portraying their love outwardly. I really enjoyed Scott's journey coming to terms with his sexuality and confidence. I think it's as similarly done in the series. I think it's nice to see him struggling with this, but still, like I said, confident with Kip. What I appreciate is that I actually found Kip to be a little bit more of a developed character in here, although I do like his story a bit more in the show. But what I appreciated more in here is the development of his friendships with Maria, Elena, and Kyle. And I think that's important because Kyle becomes a character later on. So I wish he was a bit more developed in the show because I like the Kyle in here. I think he's flirty, he's fun, and he's very like friendly to Kip. Even though I've consumed the story multiple times now because I've watched Heated Rivalry like 6, 7 times. 6, 7. I do still find Kip's frustration towards Scott to be a little unfair. Now, given I am bisexual, but I have never dated someone who had to stay in the closet for any sort of degree. So I don't personally know that pain, but I do find it to be slightly unfair. And I think that it is realistic for Rachel Reed's portrayal of Scott. Like there has never been an outwardly gay NHL player at the professional level. So Scott coming out is a big deal. And I wish that Kip took more time and consideration into that, even though I understand that Kip is probably feeling like he lives in a prison being caught in this condo all day long in New York. I get it. The ending, of course, is as sweet and as wholesome as it is in the show. And I liked how Rachel Reed, obviously, like I know the next book is about Ilya and Shane. So I like how Rachel Reed introduced Ilya as this like jokey, like sort of dickish character, but who still is kind enough to like meet Scott at the gay bar and like have fun. And he's like obviously pretending to be straight, but he's introduced as this like, okay, he's a bit of a dick, but he has a bit of a heart. But I must warn you, and I think I said this, I put a clip about this, the audiobook would absolutely get a fucking 1 star from me. I read the audiobooks for Heated Rivalry and The Long Game, and while I didn't think they were the most like outstanding audiobooks I ever listened to, this would actually get a 1 star from me. The accent that the narrator gave to Kip was atrocious, and I think if I wasn't listening to this on 3x speed, I would have wanted my ears to bleed. What the heck was that? That was so bad. Anyways, like I said, we are moving into Heated Rivalry. Now, I've already read this book. I already gave it 5 stars. I have a vlog for it linked up above if you would like to watch it and get like my first initial thoughts. And I was definitely in the midst of my Heated Rivalry obsession, okay? I am only 34 chapters in, so really not so far because I feel like I'm annotating every single page. My goal for this reread was to annotate. So I'm trying to like take my time, highlight everything, but I feel like I am literally highlighting everything. Every time something is exactly word for word as it is in the show, I'm highlighting it. Every time a moment between Shane and Ilya makes me smile, I'm highlighting it. Every time there's something like predicting of their future together, I'm highlighting it. There's a lot to be highlighting. But if you don't know what Heated Rivalry the book is about, it follows 2 hockey stars, Shane and Ilya. They are both captains of their opposing rival hockey teams. They have a very like sexual connection that mayhaps turns into something more. So I'm going to continue listening to that today, highlighting it. I am working, so I don't know how much I'll actually be listening to it because of course I want to be highlighting it, but because it's an easy listen, I think I could probably get my way through it tonight as well after work. So that's it for this update, and I'll see you later. Hello. So I have gotten 50% of the way through Heated Rivalry. Obviously, I'm loving so much. I don't know if it's because I'm like just feeling really emotional lately, and returning to this is like bringing me back to how I felt when I read it the first time and when I watched Heated Rivalry for the first time. I was imminently ending my mat leave, returning to work. I found a lot of comfort and happiness in this, and I'm wondering if my feelings that I was experiencing back then are coming back. Just because this series, I think, means a lot more to me than maybe it would have if I watched it another year. I don't know. It was obviously something I needed for returning back to work from my mat leave. So I'm not sure if those feelings are coming back. I feel like I'm shaking just talking about this. I just love it so much. Shane Hollander and Ilya Rozanov are 2 characters that I think are extremely well done by Rachel Reed. I see a lot of people who read this series talk a lot about how incredibly smutty it is. And while I do agree, I think there's something here that was not present maybe in Game Changers as much. I really do feel like Shane and Ilya are Rachel Reed's babies. They are definitely more developed characters. I think this and The Long Game are two of the longer books in the series, so you can definitely tell that there's more development in their characters. And I think saying that this book does not have as much emotional depth as the series is disingenuous. I feel like you really do feel Shane and Ilya's feelings in here, regardless of the fact that it is more developed in the show, but I still think the like threads of what makes the show good is still in here. I just got past the club scene, and I definitely think that was more well done in the show looking back. The feelings that Shane and Ilya have is really present in here, and you can feel the detriment that they are succumbing to while trying to acknowledge their feelings for one another. You have little nods at how much they like each other. You have little nods at how wrong they feel. And it's not necessarily, I think, originally it is because they are hockey players and they are struggling with this like acknowledgement of doing things with one another. But after a while, it becomes acknowledging their feelings for one another. And you definitely see that in the club scene. I think it's definitely the climax of their feelings, fittingly the midpoint in the book. And now we're going to get them acknowledging their feelings. I'm definitely excited to continue reading it. I feel so like at peace, but definitely I feel emotional reading this more than I think I thought I was going to upon this reread. Obviously, like I'm highlighting a bunch as I go on reading it. So I'm really enjoying the experience of tabbing this and annotating it and like taking my time with it. It has been a very enjoyable experience. It's taking me obviously a lot longer because I'm like sitting with what I'm reading, going through the memories of the show, annotating my favorite parts. Like I find myself smiling when I'm like reading certain parts, and like the emotional scenes are more emotional to me than I think if I would have read this without the show, definitely. But again, like I said, the feelings are still there, and I'm feeling what Shane and Ilya are feeling for one another. It's definitely present. So I'm going to continue listening to this, highlighting it. I want to reiterate, like, if you want my more in-depth thoughts, I will leave a link to my Heated Rivalry blog where I read this for the first time. For now, it's obviously just going to be like the midway point. Obviously, I'm enjoying it. Obviously, I don't think this is not going to be a 5 stars again. It's definitely a 5-star read for me. Very excited to continue on. I just noticed there's like a loon. How cute. Anyways, I'm going to go grocery shop, pick up my son, then come home. We're going to have like a pretty easy dinner tonight, just leftovers. I'm probably going to make myself a salad, and that's it. Hello, so we have a couple of things to address today. First of all, I don't know what the hell's happening with my eye. I have some sort of sty, I think, in the inside. Truly, it has been such a harrowing experience. And it's just getting worse every day before it's getting better. So let's just pretend to ignore it. I was debating lying to everyone because yesterday I went to my sister's house, and my sister lives next to my favorite used bookstore on the island of Montreal. That's right. Should I have gone in there? No. Did I go in there? Yes. They had a really great deal on mangas. And if you know, mangas are like $12 to $15, which is just not sustainable in this economy to pay full price for mangas. And so when I see a good deal, I'm sorry, I have to get it. I broke my book buying ban, but I feel like it was for a good cause. It's on mangas. And I feel okay with this decision because I am working really hard not to just buy books willy nilly. And that's what's really crucial, is that I'm trying. So I got the next 2 books I need in the Spy Family series by Tetsuya Endo, which is volume 5 and volume 6. This is about a spy named Twilight who has to infiltrate this like elementary school to get close to this other man that they need to kill or something along those lines. He creates this like fake family in order to like put a kid into this school and make his daughter friends with this guy's kid. It's a really cute manga series. I am at volume 5, so I did need to purchase these anyways, and when I saw them I obviously screamed. And then I got volume 1 of 2 manga series that I have been like relatively interested over the years. So this is Parasite by Hitoshi Iwaki, and this is about, I think, like some sort of alien invasion. They arrive in silence and darkness. They descend from the skies. They have a hunger for human flesh. They are everywhere. They are parasite alien creatures who, to survive, must invade and take control of a human host. Once they have infected their victims, they can assume any deadly form they choose. Shin is battling for control of his own body against an alien parasite, but can he find a way to warn humanity of the horrors to come? When I was getting into like anime and stuff, this was one of the anime series that came out at the time that everybody was super into. So I've always been interested in this. And like I've said before, I'm not really watching anything right now, especially not anime, because I can't just like mildly watch it. I have to like read and pay attention. So I'd rather read it as a manga. And then similarly, One Punch Man. I've heard very good things about this anime series, and so I would like to read it as a manga series. It's by Yusuke Murata. Nothing about Saitama passes the eyeball test when it comes to superheroes, from his lifeless expressions to his bald head to his unimpressive physique. However, this average looking guy has a not so average problem. He just can't seem to find an opponent strong enough to take on. Every time a promising villain appears, he beats the snot out of them with one punch. Can Saitama finally find an opponent who can go toe to toe with him and give his life some meaning? Okay, philosophical. Heard that it's really good, so let's just move on. Okay, I'm ashamed. Next, I did in fact finish Heated Rivalry last night. It's so beautiful. I love it. Give it 5 stars. I don't know what else I can talk about this series that I have not said in the past, but also in that previous vlog that I did where I read it for the first time. Absolutely love this series. I really do think Rachel Reed cares a lot about Shane and Ilya, and it's very obvious because I feel like they are the most developed characters. Their romance is the most developed. This one and The Long Game, I think, are the longest books in the series. So there's much more development about Shane and Ilya. Towards the second half of the book, you're really starting to see Ilya's mental health dilemmas. The first half of the book, Ilya is very much this like strong, obnoxious, like celebrity star type of vibe that he has. And in the latter half, as he's bonding more with Shane, as he's accepting his feelings towards Shane, you start to see this facade that Ilya has crumble, and how much he loves and appreciates Shane, and how they are really each other's everything from their first love to their only love, really. The latter half, as I said, is diving into them more as a couple and them really opening up about the possibility of being together, developing plans for the future, that sort of thing. Very, very cute. I really, really love this book. Obviously, this is a 5 stars for me. I was worried going into this that I was going to be like, oh, I'm probably not going to like it as much, because we'll get into this. I think Rachel Reed is very cringy millennial sometimes. So I was worried going into this that I was going to like find some things that I didn't appreciate, but I think it still holds up. I think it's still a really, really, really solid romance book. What I'm noticing in like Game Changer and the other book that we'll get into is this cringiness. It's there, but I don't find it as bad for Shane and Ilya. And that could be a bias that I have, and I'm willing to accept that. So, as I mentioned, I did start the next book following Heated Rivalry, which is Tough Guy. This follows pro hockey player Ryan Price. So Ryan Price has been brought up in both Game Changer and Heated Rivalry at this point, I believe. And he is like a goon. So basically in like hockey lingo for those who do not follow the sport, a goon, an enforcer, is someone who is put on the team to get into fights, to take down any other stronghold on another team. And so Ryan Price is really just put from team to team to team to be this goon figure, and he's not able to really bond with anyone. You see that in Heated Rivalry, Ilya is the only one who like pays attention to Ryan Price and like tries to get to know him and tries to be his friend. Ilya also talks about it with Shane, where he says like Ryan Price has just been on every single team. Like it's very hard for him to make friends. And you see that in the first half of this book. Ryan Price is having a lot of difficulty bonding with his teammates all the time. There's a lot of anxiety. He's not very social. So you're like, okay, it makes sense that this guy is a goon, is an enforcer. And then he takes that into his personality, sort of self-sabotagely, and it isolates him from his other players. But as he's joining the Toronto Guardians, which is the stand-in for the Toronto Maple Leafs, he's becoming friends with Wyatt, who is the backup goalie in this one. But because I've read The Long Game, I know where Wyatt goes next. Anyways, and this is developing on Ryan's recommunication with his old friend Fabian. So Fabian's family took in a lot of hockey players growing up, because young kids end up joining these like more elite teams, especially if they're on their way or on the right track to go to the NHL. They live in different cities, and if their parents aren't able to come with them, then they, I guess, live with other families, which Fabian's family was. Hello, I switch between calling him Fabian and Fabian. The reason for that is because I come from a French province and we say Fabien. So when I'm reading it like phonetically, I'm pronouncing it like that. I'll say Fabian when his name, at least according to the audiobook, is Fabian, not Fabien. And so Ryan and Fabian are sort of like rekindling their friendship, because both of them weren't out when they were teenagers. And now that they are both comfortable in their sexuality. There's obviously a sprinkling of something more. What I really appreciate in this one is that Ryan is this like big tough guy and he's a fighter, and a lot of people are like, okay, like he's just a goon basically, maybe no thoughts head empty, you know, type of vibe. And it's showing that Ryan really appreciates the arts and appreciates reading and appreciates like a more quiet life, which Fabian is sort of enveloped in this artistic lifestyle, but someone who likes attention. He is a performer and he enjoys like the spotlight. So it's very funny because they both have like opposite personalities, but they enjoy the same element of these opposite personalities. So far, I think I am really enjoying it. There is some stuff in here that I'm like a little like, okay, like there was a whole like monologue about how Ryan Price can't come, and I was like, okay, like cool. So we'll see where that goes, I guess. There is things, like I said, that are cringy that I'm not as cringed out though as I was with Game Changer. I find there was a lot in Game Changer, and that could be the audiobook. It could be Kip's voice. Like I said, what the hell was that? In this one, I'm not as cringed out about it. And I do think Ryan Price and Fabian's relationship is cute because I really do appreciate a friends to lovers. And that's what this is turning out to be, sort of. I am halfway through. I'm going to finish this, I hope today, because I really would like, if I could, to start the next one in here and at least get halfway through that one as well today. We'll see. That's my plans. I don't really have much to do at work today besides menial tasks, which means I could focus on an audiobook. So I will get to that and I will update you later. As I mentioned yesterday, please ignore this eyeball. Anyways, I can't even look at that for too long or I'm going to get anxiety. But let's talk about why we're actually here. Yesterday, I did finish Tough Guy and I settled on a 3.5 stars. I actually enjoyed this way more than I was expecting to. I've been really hesitant about the other books in the series. I don't know if I'm going to love them as much just because I worry that the only reason I like Heated Rivalry and The Long Game is because I like Shane and Ilya and because I like the show so much. But I think here we have a really good example of me enjoying the two main characters outside of Shane and Ilya, and that's Ryan and Fabian. Fabian primarily, I think, is the most interesting character because he's very confident in himself and his art, and I like that Ryan, who is this big, tough, like goony hockey player, is the shy one. I really enjoyed how in this one Ryan is really working to better himself, especially when it comes to Ryan's more like self-deprecating thoughts, which I heavily related to, as well as his different anxieties. He has a lot of anxiety flying. He has a lot of anxiety about the way that he is being perceived. And so I really appreciated that Ryan is actually like a character that I kind of related to, and I wasn't going into this expecting to. I will say, however, that some of the writing in here, particularly the sex scenes, were a bit too cringy for me. I'm not a gay man myself, obviously, so I can't really speak for the sex scenes themselves, but the dynamic in the bedroom between these two was, I think, a little too cringy for me. That sort of annoyed me at certain points and also made me cringe, as I said. But I appreciate that the sex that they were having was a way to help Ryan get out of his comfort zone. So in that sense, I like them, like the loving aspect of the sex scenes, but the more like sexual innuendos and sexual stuff about the sex scenes was a bit too cringy for me. And obviously, any scene with Ilya in this one had my complete and undivided attention, and I would like to have more of him. I'm excited because I feel like Ilya and Shane's relationship is sort of the run-through the series, which I like, and I enjoyed their like little cameos in here. I thought it was really fun. So 3.5 stars for that. And I did, in fact, get 50% of the way through Common Gold today. So this is the book that follows Kyle, who is the bartender at the Kingfisher. The Kingfisher seems to be much like how Shane and Ilya are sort of the common thread throughout the series. The Kingfisher seems to be the bar that is more of a common thread there. So it is the bar where Kip works in the first book and where Scott now takes his New York Admiral friends to go for drinks if they want to like support the gay community, I guess. And it is a gay sports bar. So Kip watches Scott's games when they were like secretly dating. As I mentioned, Scott takes people there. So Ilya Rozanov has also been to the Kingfisher, and Kyle particularly works there. And his love interest, Eric Bennett, who is the goalie for the New York Admirals. So obviously, being Scott's friend, Scott takes him to the bar. Henceforth, he meets Kyle, and they have something in common because they both like art, which is what Kip and Kyle also have in common. The thing is that Eric and Kyle have a bit of an age gap. Eric is freaking out a little bit about it, and I kind of understand him. It's not that bad. It's a bit less than 15 years, let's say. And Eric is also recently divorced, so he's really coming to terms with his bisexuality, and Kyle offers to help him discover how to do things with men. I'm really enjoying it. Like I said, I'm at the 50% mark. Nothing has really happened between Eric and Kyle. They're sort of now just starting this agreement that they have. So they have sort of a friends with benefits type of scenario. I really like Eric and Kyle. I find them to be very nice characters to follow. I wouldn't say either one of them is the most like interesting personality wise, but I like that Eric is slowly discovering his sexuality and Kyle offering and being very flirtatious and offering to do so. I'm liking that aspect of the book. I'm liking this idea of friends with benefits. I do tend to like friends to lovers. I find it to be a very interesting dynamic, even though like they just started becoming friends. So really it's more of like a physical attraction thing, but regardless, these are very similar books in like plot structure. So at this 50% mark, I'm obviously expecting to get very sexual and I am expecting them to fall in love. So I'm going to continue listening to that today. My goal is to definitely finish it by the end of the day, and I think I will do so. These books are incredibly fast to read when you're not annotating the shit out of them, like I did with Heated Rivalry. So I'm going to get to that. I have about an hour before I need to go pick up my son, and because I'm not feeling so well today, I've been taking it really easy with work, so plenty of time to listen to it. Hello, it is in fact the nighttime, which means Whisper Central because my son is sleeping. I wanted to talk to you because today I was super busy. I went out with my friends. Did you see any of that? No. But I went to my boyfriend's mechanic shop and then I went out for brunch lunch with one of my friends. And then I went back to the shop to work. So I couldn't get a lot of updating done, but I did get a lot of reading done. So yesterday I did finish Common Goal by Rachel Reed, and I ended up enjoying this one quite a bit. I gave it 3.5 stars as well, similar to Tough Guy. Because the two characters are not the most well known, they weren't the most developed throughout the series, I was a bit hesitant. I was worried that I wasn't going to like this one, but so far, honestly, it's been the book. Well, before I read Role Model, it was the book that I felt I had the most fun with aside from Heated Rivalry. It was a really enjoyable read about a friends with benefits situation, and I found it to be really sweet because the benefits are between someone who's really new to their sexuality, really open to exploring their sexuality, and someone more experienced and confident, and the roles are like reversed if you think about in regards to like their age gap. I really enjoyed both their personalities. Eric, obviously, he's a very stoic, sensitive, and like keeps to himself type of character, relatable, and Kyle's very outgoing and spunky and confident, and Eric sees that and is something that he appreciates in Kyle. And so that made me also appreciate both their storylines really and be kind of devoted to how these characters were going to develop as we moved further in the story. I do, however, think the miscommunication in this one was wild. Probably the most like frustrating miscommunication I've experienced in a while. I don't know how either of them handled the other. Like they were not talking about their feelings. They were extremely like just miscommunicating about their feelings, but I guess that's sort of what makes them work as a couple, and they've grown obviously, and as I moved into Role Model you see that they are still a strong dynamic. However, I will say if I had to listen to Eric talk one more time about how he was too old for Kyle, I was absolutely going to rip my earlobes off. Like he was so self-deprecating, but like I guess that's kind of me too. Like I also feel like, oh, I'm old, blah, blah, blah. So, like, maybe I also need to shut up. But otherwise, like I said, really fun time. I think the sex scenes in here were, like, extremely spicy. Like, I was listening to this and I was like, I couldn't believe it. Then I moved into Role Models. So this is about Troy Barrett, who used to be on the Toronto Guardians with Ryan Price, and he was best friends with this man named Dallas Kent, who is this like rising superstar in hockey. One day, Troy Barrett is traded because at a practice, he gets in a fight with Dallas Kent and calls him a rapist because these allegations have been coming out against Dallas Kent in regards to him sexually assaulting women, and Troy Barrett can't believe that he's been friends with someone like that. Because he and Dallas get into a fight, Troy Barrett is the one that is unfortunately traded from the Toronto Guardians, and he goes on to the Ottawa Centaurs team, which is Ilya Rozanov's team, which is what ties Troy Barrett to the rest of the series. This has been a very interesting read because obviously currently right now as I'm reading this, it is the Stanley Cup finals. There is a player named Corey Hart who was in this like very high profile legal battle here in Canada over his participation in a sexual assault case here when he was a junior hockey player on the Team Canada team. What we're seeing in real time is how it is not really effective of what happens to men, right? He's still in the Stanley Cup playoffs. The push for men to always believe a man and the resistance to believe a girl and think that the girl is making it up. And we're seeing that in here with Dallas Kent as Troy Barrett has changed teams. When he announces things or is on the Ottawa Centaurs social media, the more often comments are that they can't believe that he would believe these lying women, that he would leave his friend behind and stuff like that. And so Troy is having a really tough time mentally dealing with the fact that he's the one being punished for defending women, how people just can't believe that he would give up like his career for this act and believe these like women online, obviously they're using worse terms, over like someone who he was supposed to spend the rest of his career with. Troy Barrett is a very interesting and complex character because he also has a lot of like internalized homophobia. He never really denies in the book internally that he's gay. He had a secret boyfriend, but it is something that he outwardly projected. Like we saw in Tough Guy, Troy Barrett is always around Dallas Kent when he's making these homophobic jokes, and Troy Barrett is really struggling with this because in order to hide his queerness, he overly projects this like tough straight man misogyny that he believes he has to be because he sees it within his father and within obviously Dallas Kent and who he surrounded himself with. What we're seeing in here is Troy Barrett struggling with this. He doesn't have that sense of like misogyny that he needs to partake in anymore on the Ottawa Centaurs, and he meets Harris, who is the Ottawa Centaurs social media person. He runs the Instagram, he runs like basically all the accounts for the Ottawa Centaurs, and he's dealing with these comments that Troy Barrett is getting and trying to like protect Troy from them in a way and trying to make Troy seem like a very soft and sweet person so that people understand why he did what he did, but also to show that he fits in well with the Ottawa Centers, with the team itself. I think the relationship's really cute. Obviously, Troy is struggling with being surrounded by hockey players who are openly like appreciative of queerness. Obviously, it's not something that he is accustomed to, and so he's slowly becoming more and more himself, which I'm really liking. This is the first time I think I'm really liking one of the books. Like I said, the other ones are fun, but this one I'm actually really like enjoying as a book aside from Heated Rivalry and The Long Game. So I am at the 50% mark. I will be hopefully trying to finish it tonight, if not a little bit tomorrow, and then I'll move right away into The Long Game. I do have to go to work tomorrow, so we'll see how much gets done, but I will update you obviously at the end of the day tomorrow. So it's been a couple of days since I updated. It has just been a whirlwind of the last 2 weeks. I hope you don't mind that this vlog is coming a bit later. I had to shift a bunch of things around just because like I felt so like sick and busy with work, and a lot of it is we've transitioned to like a 3-day week, and obviously I'm coming back from maternity leave, so it has been incredibly hard just to like work and then to have to come in 3 days a week. I really feel like the work-life balance is not being settled enough for me after coming off of almost a 1.5 years of mat leave. It feels too crazy for me. Anyways, we have quite a bit to update on, like I said. So the first thing is that we got my Aardvark book box for the month of June. Probably it is the mid-June. So let's just see what I got. So as usual, you guys eat first. Ooh. The first thing is that they published a book that I think was published earlier in the year. So they've been doing this where they take like one of the spots in a month to republish a book that's come out earlier in the year, and I missed this one when it came out, and as you know, I'm on a book buying ban where I'm trying not to buy backlist books. So by the time that I realized this existed, it would have been silly of me to just order it because I didn't pre-order it, right? And as we remember, it's supposed to be pre-orders. But anyways, that book is The Unicorn Hunters by Catherine Arden. I really like Catherine Arden's, oh my gosh, what's it called? The Bear and the Nightingale series. That fantasy series was absolutely phenomenal to me. I do have another Catherine Arden on my TBR, so maybe I can do something similar to the last vlog you saw where I read an old book from an Aardvark book box author that I had and a new book. And so potentially this could count for that because I do have The Warm Hands of Ghosts, which is the last Catherine Arden release, I believe. In a desperate gamble to save her throne, a young monarch arranges a secret marriage, conceals it in the shadows of an enchanted forest, and unknowingly alters the fate of her new world. Oh, I think this is a retelling of like actual history. Okay, I don't want to know more. I just feel like I'm gonna like this because I really like Catherine Arden's writing. And then this is one of the months where I got 2 books just because I didn't get anything in May, and there were 2 books that interested me in June. So I figured why not get an extra book for cheaper? And the extra book that I got was Sublimation by Isabel J. Kim. A lot of people were eagerly anticipating this month, so that piqued my interest, obviously. And it's akin to Severance, I believe, which is a prompt that I really like. When you immigrate, you leave a copy of yourself behind. One person enters their new country, the other stays trapped at home. Some instances keep in touch, call each other daily, keep their lives and minds in sync in the hopes of reintegrating and resuming life as one person. Others, like Soyoung Rose Kang, leave home at 10 years old and never speak to themselves again. Rose, in America, never imagined going back to Korea until her grandfather died. In her Korean instance, Soyoung called her home for the funeral. She doesn't know that Soyoung plans to steal her body and her life. Okay. Sounds really interesting. And those are the 2 books that I got from Aardvark this month. Next, I guess I didn't update you guys on my final thoughts for Role Model, which I did in fact finish. And I think that this installment, aside from Ilya and Shane's stories, is definitely my favorite one, particularly because I really enjoyed Troy Barrett as a main character, and I definitely see why he is the fan favorite outside of Shane and Ilya. He is a very understandable character to enjoy, and the character growth that he goes through is really interesting. Most of the novels in this series are tackling misogyny in the NHL, and particularly when it comes to homophobia. This one was really the first one in the series that demonstrated the level of rape culture mentality that permeates the sport. Currently, right now, as I'm talking to you, I am watching the Vegas Golden Knights game, and on the Vegas Golden Knights, we have a starting goalie playing for the Stanley Cup playoffs who was in a sexual assault case in Canada. Maybe it's because I'm reading it at a time that sexual allegations seem to mean nothing against these men, but this book in particular felt like it had more depth than the other ones that don't surround Shane and Ilya. And again, I think that that's partly because Barrett is such a well-rounded and developed character. I like that we get the scope of his growth over the course of this novel, and I did like his relationship with Harris, because Harris is so like proud and strong in his sexuality, whereas Troy Barrett is like grown to be really shameful. He's grown within like this misogynistic part of hockey, and he thinks that that's the only way he can be in hockey, and Harris really like shows him that it's not the only way. But I think it is just the weaker part of the novel, because everything surrounding Troy Barrett outside of this relationship was really interesting for me, and I think it was really impactful. And it could be, again, the point at which I'm reading it, but it definitely was the biggest strength of the novel as well. So I gave this 4 stars. I'm really, really happy with it. Sorry, I had to watch because I needed to see if Carolina was going to score. I really want them to win the Stanley Cup, obviously, but I have gotten halfway through the long game. This is the second book that follows Shane and Ilya, and it is their relationship as they have like admitted their feelings for one another. They are for sure boyfriend and boyfriend. They are for sure a couple together. As you can see, there is a lot of like blue, because this one is definitely tackling Shilia's mental health.
Who the fuck is Shilia?
And I don't know if I explained this when I read Heated Rivalry. I think I did. I identify very much with Ilya. I am someone who hides their feelings through humor and like sexual deviance, I guess you could say, when in my past. And it is something that I definitely still struggle with. And so reading Ilya's struggles and how he just wants to like scream his feelings to the world, but he definitely like has this instinct to hold it in, definitely something I relate to. I find myself getting mad at Shane in here for not seeing what Ilya is trying to tell him, but it's like obviously because I understand how Ilya is feeling. And honestly, the first time I read this book, it made me like think to myself like, oh, maybe I should be nicer to my boyfriend, because like he can't read my mind either. And when I'm being depressed or like self-sabotaging in a way, like sometimes I just want my boyfriend to like figure out what I'm doing and like save me, but really what I need is to like work on myself and understand my feelings and where my feelings are coming from. And Ilya is going to therapy in this first half. He just had one appointment or 2 appointments, I think, talking about his feelings, and his therapist is really validating him and telling him like Shane has support around him. His parents know that you're a couple, he has friends who know that you're a couple, and you really don't have anyone outside of Shane and Shane's family, right? And so Ilya is starting to really think about this, and you could tell that he's trying to open up to Shane a little bit more. He's definitely getting frustrated. And I think there's a language barrier as well. Like Ilya really does struggle with expressing himself more eloquently, I guess you could say, to Shane about his feelings. And Shane is, you could tell, trying to understand Ilya, but I think Shane's anxieties also get the best of him as well. He's very nervous about being a gay player in the NHL. Something that's a big topic in here, but as well in Role Model, is the role that the NHL plays in keeping them silent. For Troy Barrett, the commissioner of the NHL wants him to stop like posting about the women who have made sexual allegations against Dallas Kent, his old teammate, and the commissioner's like, look, you're doing good work, but like maybe you could be a bit more quiet. Like Dallas Kent is our like star player in a way. And in here, the commissioner is like, hey, I've heard some rumors that you're gay. Maybe, you know, we don't need to make such a big deal about it like Scott Hunter did. You could just like be quiet, play, and continue to be the best. And that frustrates Ilya a lot because Ilya is really struggling with wanting to come out and wanting to tell the world that he loves Shane. These instances are what are keeping Shane very nervous to outwardly speak on how he feels. So we're going to move into the second half. I know it's going to make me cry even more because this is really where Ilya and Shane are hitting rough spots because they need to learn how to communicate a bit better outside of sex. That is something, again, that I think me and Ilya were one about. And so as I've pretty much cried, I think at least once a chapter, I would say, in the first half, I'm expecting to do so as we move forward. So I'm going to continue reading this. It's definitely not helping that I'm watching the Stanley Cup finals, given the scenario that it is, given the time that we're living in. Maybe that has something to do with the fact that I'm not speeding through this series. I don't know, but I'm definitely having a good time. I just need to really hunker down and finish this last book. Hello, welcome to the end of the vlog, and let's get into my final thoughts on the long game. I actually increased my rating for this from the last time. So last time I was comparing Heated Rivalry and the long game together, and now I'm really comparing the long game to the rest of the series, and this definitely feels like more of a 5-star for me. I won't get too much into details on my overall thoughts because they haven't necessarily changed since my last vlog on this book, but I definitely identified more with Ilya in this one. You see a lot of the blue tabs. I don't know if it's because I'm feeling this way, I'm feeling a certain way, I'm experiencing maybe like more emotional ties to my identity than I am previously willing to admit, and I feel like Ilya was also going through a lot of that in this one, and I just, from the beginning, I've always identified with Ilya, and I think this was just more solidified this time, and I really enjoyed looking at Shane and Ilya as a growing couple more this time. Last time I think I was like really crying for the yearning and like the development of their relationship, and in here I really started to enjoy the cementing of their relationship and how they are going to work together as a couple, especially knowing that Unrivaled, which is the next published book in this series, will be coming out, and seeing them grow as a couple from there even on. I think I appreciated more of their journey in here than I did the last time I read it. So this became more of a success, and I'm very, very happy because I was a little bit nervous going into this one. I'm like, what if I didn't like it as much as I did last time? And knowing that I didn't like it as much as Heated Rivalry, maybe that will affect my rating, but I actually ended up enjoying it a lot more. So let's summarize my overall thoughts. It's unfortunate because the series namesake is probably the book I rated the lowest in here, I think, but that was Game Changer, which I gave a 3 stars. They definitely are the catalyst, I guess, for the rest of the series, but my least favorite book overall, but it was still a 3 stars. Like, it was still good. I just had more problems with this one. Then of course the reread of Heated Rivalry did not let me down. I loved this one. 5 stars, of course. I think my favorite book in the series, I don't know, the long game kind of tied it this time around. But we'll say the Heated Rivalry is my favorite in the series. Then we had Tough Guy, which is Ryan and Fabian's story, which I gave a 3.5 stars to. Common Goal with Kyle and Eric, which I also gave a 3.5 stars to. Role Model, which was the surprise. I really, really liked this one with Troy and Harris, and I gave this a 4 stars. It was definitely like the more surprising one of the new books I read. And then of course, as previously stated, The Long Game, which I gave a 5 stars. So I definitely got my itch of Heated Rivalry out of the way 6 months after previously ingesting it. I've reheated. I've found a sense of happiness again. So thank you, Heated Rivalry. Thank you to this universe, because it always finds a way to make me smile. Please let me know down below if you've read any of these books. Did you like them? Did you hate them? Let me know. It actually, don't let me know if you hate Heated Rivalry. I don't want to know. I don't want to know, actually. Scratch that. Just let me know if you love it. If you would like to follow me on any of my other social medias, I do leave a link down below to my Twitter, Goodreads, and Instagram if you would like to follow me there. Of course, given the state of the world, hopefully social medias still exist to connect us all. And if there's still a link down below, you can follow me there. And of course, because it is the end of the video, please do not forget to like, subscribe, ring the notification bell. Does wonders for my channel, makes me feel really good. And that's it. I never know how to end these things, so I will see you next time. Okay, bye.